angle.
That is unbelievable.
These guys will be legends in their own country, but also in the international basketball world forever.
That is what sport means. That is what the EuroLeague trophy means. Are you not entertained?
I'm not supposed to be cheering, but this is X Series. I can do whatever I want.
Everything is difficult in this life, so still you need to be on it.
It all comes down to tonight. Don't miss the biggest night in MMA. PFL is more than a fight.
Catching up on any NFL game is easier than ever before.
Looking to the end zone for the win!
Oh my gosh, one of the great games you'll ever see.
The competition is back, and the UEFA Women's Champions League looks set to be bigger and better than ever before.
It's their time. A night to remember.
The following program is recommended for those 16 and over, as it contains sporting violence, possible bad language, and flashing imagery.
Conlon will join us back into the program at about 5:45 Eastern. That's 10:45 over in the UK. One of my favorite boxing pundits is also going to join us on today's program. His name is Dan Canobio. He is the co-host of the Inside Boxing Live show, the podcast hosted by himself and the great Chris Algieri. I enjoy it. They put it on twice a week. I listen all the time, and we'll talk to him about all the comings and goings in the world of boxing. There's a lot going on right now. Coming off this weekend, heading into this weekend, he'll be a part of the 2 MVP shows that are going down this Friday and Saturday in Orlando at the famed Caribe Royale. Looking forward to that very much. In what is another busy weekend, there's a Queensberry show, there's a Matchroom show as well down under. So all the promotions right here on DAZN. We'll talk to Dan Canobio about all of that, perhaps a little Moses Itauma talk as well, and perhaps a little Terrence Crawford, Canelo Alvarez talk as well. Or I should say Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Crawford. In a couple of seconds, in a couple of minutes, we are going to be joined by, in my opinion, one of the very best trainers in all of combat sports, regardless of the combat sport. But of course, we all know him and love and respect him for the work that he does in the sweet science, in the world of boxing. He was right there by Moses Itauma's side on Saturday in Riyadh as he absolutely destroyed the body snatcher Dillian Whyte. 1 minute and 59 seconds, that's all it took. 20 years young, well on his way to becoming the next face of the heavyweight division, the next face of the UK boxing scene. The one and only Ben Davison, who has seen them all, who has trained them all. He knows a thing or two about putting together a superstar career. He's kind enough to join us right here and now on the program. Hello, Ben. How are you?
Good, thanks, Ariel. How are you?
Pleasure as always to talk to you. Really appreciate the time and appreciate you joining us, especially it's a little late over there. So thank you so much. Congratulations to you and the team on the win on Saturday. Can you be honest with me? I think a lot of people thought your guy Moses would win. Did you think it would be that quick?
I think we knew that it had potential to go that quick, but dependent on how Dillian was going to approach the fight, and it just so happened that he approached the fight in a way that, you know, we thought surely he can't go about it like that. But he did, and, you know, he's hard to defend against at the best of times. So, yeah, the moment that certain things were happening, Moses was able to process that. He'd worked on certain things that were happening, and he was able to execute.
Gosh, it's mesmerizing watching these highlights. He is such a joy to watch. Can I ask specifically, when you talk about, you know, Dillian doing things that maybe you thought he shouldn't have done, what are you referring to?
We're not going to go into too much detail.
Fair enough.
But, you know, I thought he may take a certain type of approach to try and make himself a bit more awkward and get a chance to have a look and just try and maybe slow the fast starter down. But he didn't quite take that approach, and you know, so when people talk about the tendencies that we base our work off of, people often ask me, yeah, but what if the fighter comes out and has a different approach? Well, that's not the type of thing that we look at. We don't look at, he's going to come out on the front foot, or he's going to come out on the back foot, or he's going to sit and wait to counter. The things that we focus on are things that happen no matter how they approach the fight, because then we know in these scenarios they're going to react like this. This is what they're going to do. So those are the type of things that we look at, and Lee Wiley does a fantastic job every single time putting together the scouting reports. We go away, we take a look at it, we create some drills, and then we just it's just repetition. And Moses, for all the talent that people call it, he's a tremendously hard worker. He loves the sport of boxing, and he's an absolute pleasure to work with, because where he's so focused, he's so committed. Anything you ask him to do, he'll go in and try and do. That's what allows him to go in and execute. It's not talent, it's hard work.
So what was so interesting about the build-up was it was almost like a tale of two approaches. Both you and Lee, it has been talked about at length. You love to prepare, you study, you come together, and you have game plans, and you do your homework. And then on the flip side, you had Dillian's head trainer, Buddy McGirt, saying, I've never watched a clip of this guy, which blows my mind when you have a phenom about to stand in front of your guy. How do you not do your homework? Do you believe him? Do you believe him when he says that? Do you believe that they didn't watch anything on Moses heading into the fight? And if so, if you do believe him, how insane is that to do as you're preparing for a fight like Moses?
Yeah, look, Buddy's a very experienced coach. He's been in some massive fights, and he's got his own way of doing things. He's a former two-weight world champion, and perhaps when he was a boxer, he didn't take too many looks at his opponent. So whatever he feels works for him, you know, we like to take our approach that we feel works for us. But Buddy's also had many successful nights as well, and with his approach as well. So,
do you believe him?
I do, yeah. I do
Wow.
believe him, yeah.
When you heard that, were you shocked?
No, because I know a few guys that have worked with him, and it's not the first time that he said that. So, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. It was very clear that Dillian was trying to get under Moses' skin a little bit, play some mind games in the build-up to the fight, especially on fight week. Could you tell us, how is he handling everything behind the scenes? He's just 20, biggest opportunity, biggest fight of his life, so much expectation, such a big spotlight. What were you seeing from Moses fight week in Riyadh?
Yeah, it truly is a ultra-orthodox back, you know. I think, again, going back to how much of a hard worker he is and all the ability that he's got on top of that, because there's lots of young fighters that have got ability. But what's allowing him to do what he's doing at such a young age is his emotional maturity, which is so rare. That in itself is something that's spectacular. And that's what's allowing him to do what he's doing at such a young age in such convincing fashion. And almost, you know, as if he expects it to happen as well. You know, being 100% honest, he was almost slightly frustrated after the fight on Saturday.
Wow.
Because as much as everybody talks about, you know, they want to see him get pushed and get tested, you know, he's putting himself into it in a build-up, expecting there to be a certain level of resistance. And you know, when the opponents are not able to do that, I think, you know, he almost gets a bit of an anticlimax, to be honest.
So what do you say to him in those moments when he shares that frustration with you after the fight?
I just said to him, look, the performance might have looked easy, but it wasn't easy. You know, you put in a really tough training camp. You put in a hell of a lot of work to put in a performance like that. And in the post-fight press conference, he actually said, you know, I've done a 12-week training camp to go out and put a performance on like that. But it's not, you know, he started boxing at such a young age. It's been 10, 11 years worth of work for him to be able to go out there and deliver the nights and performances that he's delivering at the moment.
You know, something that always impresses me every time I see him is, A, he doesn't look like a 20-year-old. He doesn't act like a 20-year-old, especially not one who is enjoying all the success. Even in the post-fight interview with ADE, he's not bigging himself up. He's just kind of having fun and taking it all in stride. And I'm wondering if at any moment, are you ever worried? Are you ever afraid? Do you ever have to talk to him about not letting all of this get to him? Does it ever sort of seep through and you start to notice the head getting a little big? Does that ever happen with Moses at this stage?
Not so far. I haven't seen anything like that. I think he's very well grounded. He's got a very good family around him. He's always been very grounded, to be honest with you. And I think if there was any signs of that, I think the family would be the first ones to have something to say to him. But there is no signs like that. He's a very well managed young man, as are all of the family. So clearly a representation of the work that their parents have done. And yeah, he's there's no signs of that, which is great for us to see as well.
I'm not suggesting you do this, but I have seen others suggest it as well. And I would never expect you to do it because you've got great fighters in your stable. But some I've seen say, like, he is such a generational talent. It is so clear that he is such a phenom and he has such a great, successful career ahead of him. 15, 20 years, who knows? The world is his oyster. Ben Davison should drop everyone else and just focus on Moses and just be in the Moses business because this is a once-in-a-lifetime fighter. You're not going to do that, I know. But as a trainer, when you get someone like this, you know, in your grasp, what is that? What is going on in your mind? Like, this is a generational talent. This is a guy who has all the makings of one of the all-time best. And I know there's a long way to go, and we're not trying to put the cart before the horse. But can you describe the excitement, the emotions when you get to go to work with someone like him who's doing so well so early?
Yeah, to be honest with you, you know, I'm just in a fortunate position where I get to do something I love as a job for a living, and every single day we go in and I wouldn't waste my time, and I work with all the lads in the gym that when we ask them to do something, you know, or we work on something, they're coming in the next day and they're practicing it, or you ask them to go into their next spar and make sure that you're in this situation, we want to see you reacting like this or doing a little bit more of that. They do that, and that's great for us to see. And again, with Moses, it's very exciting because the passion that he brings, the excitement he's got for it, you know, he wants to get it right. So he wants to get extra reps in. He wants to make sure that it's on point so that the next bar is able to get it off. And, you know, he's willing to put himself in uncomfortable situations to practice on certain areas of his game. And, you know, that is the enjoyable part. I don't look at the end possible result. I look at that excites me each day. I know he's gonna work on that today, or that thing that we worked on these last few days that got put into practice today. That's exciting. That makes my days enjoyable because that's what it's all about. Not the journey is the destination, as they say. So enjoying it in that manner, I don't think you can ask for anything more. Not for me, anyway.
So you linked up with him around mid-2024 after his 8th pro fight, and he told media last week, The Independent in particular, that linking up with you regained his love for boxing. And it's a bit of a surprising thing to read because he's doing so well. He seemed to be on this trajectory. Where was he at when you first met him? And were you sensing that this was a kid who was falling out of love with something he was so good at?
I think there was a lot of change from going from an amateur to a professional. I don't know. I'm guessing here. I'm not putting words in his mouth. I'm saying it from maybe
your perspective.
how it may have been. Yeah, I think there was a big change for him. I think that he probably felt like he was looking for something that he hadn't quite found at that point in terms of himself developing. Can I keep developing? What areas of my game can I work on, etc., etc. So I think when he came, and I think his eyes got opened a little bit to, actually there's all of these other areas that I've got lots of improvement I can still continue to make. I'm as good as I am, and he's very aware of how good he is, but I've still got all these areas that can make me even better. I think that drove excitement for him. And I think some of the things about the sport, the business that may have been getting him down, we had a few conversations about that, and I think it might have changed his perspective maybe on how he looks at those things, perhaps. And yeah, I think that may be the reasons why it reignited his excitement for coming into the gym. Is because I could always see he loved it, because the moment we went to show him something, he would go in and practice it. And the moment he went in and practiced it and got it off, I could see that excitement. And he'd go over his spars, and sometimes late at night. I'm an early sleeper, so sometimes I'd wake up early in the morning and he would have been texting at 2-3 in the morning, going over his sparring or watching a fight. Is this more what you want to see? Is this an example of what you want, etc., etc.? And that screams out to me someone that enjoys their job, and that's great, because that makes it a pleasure for us as well.
Okay, so now the big question is, where does he go from here? We are not wasting any time. Turki Al-Sheikh saying, I want Usyk. He mentioned the likes of Kabayel, Parker. Others have mentioned Bakoli. These are all the big names. It doesn't get any bigger than this. If it was up to Ben Davison, which direction are you going in with Moses next?
I think one of the things that, if we was to, the fight that everybody says, it's out of reach, is Alexander Usyk.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
If we was to put him into that Usyk fight and he was to lose, if I was to look back on that situation and say, what probably should we have done differently or gave him more of to have stood a better chance in that fight, it would be rounds. And I think we need to find somebody that's able to deliver rounds. Because as much as people claim that he's never fought anybody like Usyk, which is correct, I strongly am of the opinion that Usyk has not boxed somebody like Moses either. Somebody with the IQ that could match anybody at any weight. Somebody with the agility, coordination, speed and power that he has. It's a fight that intrigues me, but I think to give him the best of chances, I think, rounds is what we're looking for. And yes, of course, these most recent opponents that we've been trying to get, we've been looking to deliver rounds. But we've got a couple of opponents in mind. We're going to sit down and have a conversation to see where the team are at. And I'm not going to mention any names because I think that can drive the price up. So I don't want to upset Uncle Frank.
Fair enough.
And but yeah, there's a couple of opponents in mind. I think rounds is something that we really need to deliver at the minute. And it's going to take... I've got one or two in mind because if there's any sign of a leaky defense, there's a good chance he's going to take you out. And he's very, very hard to go rounds with, to be in there with, and to last rounds with. So, like I say, I've got one or two in mind, and we'll chat to the team this week and see what's available and see where they're at as well.
I won't press you on specific names, but the Ring Magazine did come out with their top 10 today as far as the heavyweight division is concerned. Usyk, of course, Fury, Parker, Caballel, Dubois, AJ, Hrgovic, Wardley, Zhang, Bacoli, 10, Moses. Did I mention one of the names? Is the name that you're thinking, did I mention them?
One of them's in there, yeah.
Okay. Would you feel comfortable, as his head trainer, would you feel comfortable if some way, somehow, the stars aligned and it is Usyk next, as Turkey has said? You know, you want your guy to go in there safe, healthy, prepared. Would you feel comfortable with that?
I think we wouldn't be giving him his best chance possible, but I would not be shocked. I wouldn't be like, he's in for a chance of winning that fight without a shadow of doubt. He probably has the best chance of anybody to beat Alexander Usyk.
Right now?
Yes, of any other heavyweight. There isn't a heavyweight out there, in my opinion, that has a better chance than him of winning that fight.
Wow.
However, I still think there's things that we could deliver to allow him to have even better chances of winning that fight. So, yeah, look, like I say, we'll sit down. And people might say you're mad, but...
I love it.
I would explain it like this. There is not another heavyweight on the planet that, if before Saturday was matched up with Dillian Whyte, not one other heavyweight would people have said it's going to be a 2-3 round job for.
Mm.
It turned out to be a 1 round job.
Mm.
And I think that in itself sums up what people truly think. It's hard for them to come out and say, could he? But I don't think there is another heavyweight that has a better chance than him.
Is this happening quicker than you thought when you first linked up with him? Were you expecting in sort of mid-2025, a year or so later, to be in these types of talks, meaning Usyk next, potentially?
No, to be honest, there was the possibility of breaking Mike Tyson's record very nearly come about. Very nearly come about. It didn't quite come off, but I was, I thought there's a chance of this coming off here and breaking that record. And once that was done, that fight may have come about. So, like I say, there isn't, when people mention names, there isn't one heavyweight that I would say, oh, I don't like that for him. Not one. All I'll say is, which is the same for anybody, it's just risk versus reward. That fight's just as hard as that fight, but that fight's got more reward to it. That's it, really.
By the way, why didn't that situation pan out? Meaning him trying to become the youngest heavyweight champion of all time, breaking Tyson's record. Why didn't it work out?
Just there was a situation where some of the belts may have got fragmented and it just didn't quite end up happening because timeframes ended up changing, etc. So once timeframes changed and it wasn't going to happen before, with the opportunity to break the Mike Tyson record,
okay,
the foot just took off the gas, and it's no rush now. You know what I mean?
Sure. This time next year, August of 2026, where's Moses in your opinion?
I believe he'll be a world champion.
Undisputed?
We'll see. We'll see. More than capable of. If the opportunities and the stars align, yes, he will be.
Okay. Wow. Can't wait to see how that plays out. I do want to ask you about some of your other fighters, namely Anthony Joshua. It's heating up, this Jake Paul stuff. I know you've been asked about it a little bit. For our audience, are you in favor of this? Would you be comfortable with AJ fighting Jake Paul, given the discrepancy in resumes, let's just say, in experience?
Yeah, I just think my opinion is this on it. Francis Ngannou was more qualified after his fight with Tyson Fury to box Anthony Joshua. That being him being one of the most durable men on the planet. And we saw what happened there. I think for Jake Paul to go in against Anthony Joshua, just picture that situation, what we saw against Francis Ngannou, and then picture Francis Ngannou versus Jake Paul, even just from a physical standpoint in itself. But there's talk of, Jake's more qualified than Ngannou, based off of Francis Ngannou has the better boxing performance out of those two guys, hands down, with the Tyson Fury fight. So I believe Francis Ngannou was more qualified, better equipped physically, and that still happened what happened. So, yeah, make of that what you will, I think.
Could I ask who you would like to see AJ fight next when he returns?
I think the world of boxing's always wanted to see the Fury fights, but, whatever really. I think his goal is to become a world champion, or to do the Fury fight again, to become a world champion again, or to do the Fury fight. So, yeah, look, I don't know. I don't know what the right next step is, or when that step is. I know that there's a lot of talk of this Jake Paul stuff, but yeah, I suppose we'll see.
Do you think we see him again this year, or is the clock running out on that?
Possibly towards the back end of the year, maybe early start of next year, maybe.
Okay. By the way, since you did obviously fight Francis and study him, he told me yesterday he really wants Deontay next. How do you think that plays out, Deontay Wilder versus Francis Ngannou?
It's hard to say, because I don't know how Deontay. Do you know when people ask how do I see this fight going? How do I see that fight going? It often depends on the approach. And if I've seen enough of the boxer, I can go, against that style, I typically think he will approach the fight like this. But with Deontay Wilder, I don't know where he's at. He's not what he was, obviously. So, and after those losses that he's had, that may, or I think it will, being honest, impact his approach to the fight. And so therefore, I don't actually know how he would approach it. I mean, he's very explosive, very dangerous from a lull, Deontay Wilder. Almost lull you to sleep, explosive, quick 1-2, which I think Francis would struggle to defend against. But if Deontay goes into that fight too concerned about what's coming back and too defensively minded, I think he could get run through, to be honest with you.
Wow.
He would have to be committed, ballsy, and confident to execute. And I don't think Deontay Wilder is capable of taking the same approach as Anthony Joshua to set up those situations. But then again, Francis Ngannou defensively, I think, could struggle if Deontay Wilder is confident and committed. He's very explosive. But yeah, I don't know. It depends on how the guys approach. But it is a fight that would intrigue me, if I'm honest.
Yes, certainly two heavy hitters. I'll ask you one more. You've got a great stable of guys. Shout out to Alois Jr. as well, doing big things. Seems to be on his way as a cruiserweight. I do want to ask you, the Fabio Wardley knockout of Justice Huni, as far as an experience as a trainer is concerned, have you ever experienced a range of emotions like that before? Because it's like we saw Eddie in the corner. It seemed like things were not going well until they went spectacularly well in his favor. I'm just curious what's going through your mind as you're witnessing this, take that left turn. And B, when do we think that we will see Fabio back in against who?
Fabio's going to have some news really soon. And in terms of I been through those emotions, unfortunately I have. I don't know if you remember, but I was part of Leewood versus Mick Conlon.
Yes, of course. Nottingham Zone, yes, of course. That was incredible, yes.
Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder, the first fight. So yeah, I've had a few dramatic.
You're 32, but really, as far as those experiences are concerned, perhaps maybe like 60. Boxing has turned.
I think it's starting to show as well.
Well, it's all working out. It's lovely to see, especially the work that you're doing with Moses. Both you and Lee doing an incredible job getting your flowers. My condolences to Lee's family. I know he lost his mother recently.
That's
and
right,
so,
yeah.
If he is out there watching, my condolences to him. I know it was
Really
really tough.
appreciate that.
As
Thank
a mother's,
you.
as a mama's boy, I feel for him, and just want to say congratulations to you and the entire team. Huge fan of what Moses is doing, what you're doing with him, and it's great to see. So congratulations on all the success. Thanks for staying up late. You mentioned you're an early sleeper there, so it made me feel bad that you are up.
No, no problem.
So thank you so much, Ben. All the best, and we'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
The great Ben Davison joining us. What a stable he has. He trains his squad over at the Ben Davison Performance Center in beautiful Essex. Both he and Lee known to be two of the very best in terms of game planning, research, preparation. They do it all. And they took the Ngannou fight with AJ very seriously. They did not dismiss him. And so when you hear Buddy McGirt say before that fight, as White's trainer, yeah, I'm not going to watch anything. What do you mean you're not going to watch anything? Nothing? You're not going to do anything? No prep whatsoever on this guy? He's a phenom, once-in-a-lifetime, 20-year-old sensation? The juxtaposition of the two approaches was very glaring, in my opinion. You see how it all plays out. All right, still to come, the aforementioned Mick Conlan, who was part of that fight. But first, want to say hello to one of my favorites in the game, as I said at the top of the show, co-host of one of my favorite, dare I say, my second favorite boxing podcast, this, of course, being the first. If it doesn't include me, it is number one. I've been watching and listening to it for quite some time, well before we ever did this. It's called Inside Boxing Live, does it twice a week with the great Chris Algieri. He's the one and only, the big unk himself, Dan Canobio. Hello, Dan. How are you?
My guy, Ariel, how are you, my friend?
It's good to get you out of the, you're partying out there, you're on the shore, you're living life, so I'm sorry for taking you away from all of this. Thanks for giving us some time.
Well, listen, I've known you forever, like going on like 10 years now, and I've had you on my show numerous times, and I finally got the call last night. I jumped. I left the beach. I got in my car. I cruised to the city. I set up. I'm a little, I got a little sunburn, but I'm ready. I'm ready to talk boxing with my friend.
Okay, well, I hope I didn't ruin any plans, but I do thank you for being here. It is great to be here with you. We were just talking to Ben Davison about Moses Itauma, and so the big question coming off this weekend is where does he go from here? Turkey's saying, let's do Usyk. Others are saying, let's chill a little bit. Credit to Ben. He said, happily take the fight. I think he wins the fight, but I'd love for him to get just a few more rounds because he'll be even better in a year or two. If you're Frank Warren, if you're, the whole Warren family managing him, if you're Ben Davison as well, which direction are you taking Moses?
First off, Ben Davison in his pajamas. That was a look. He's a friend of mine, and so is Mick Conlan. So this is awesome to be sandwiched between those two. In terms of the Itauma, this is like a really cool thing we have right now in boxing where everyone in the boxing community has their claws into this kid because they want to see how he should be handled. You have the old, like the Lou DeBells of the world saying, this is how I believe I would handle him. Then you have the young guard saying, all right, let's just put him in there with Usyk. So I feel like he's the bluest of blue chip prospects. He's almost like an A-list celebrity, and you can't afford to put him in like a bad movie because that might crater his career. So you might not be able to afford to put him in there with a Usyk because it might upend his career. And this is different than acting. You're actually taking punishment. You could get really hurt inside of there. But I think Frank Warren is taking the right approach here. This is a guy that's a survivor, literally. Frank Warren has seen it all. He's one of the best promoters in the game, if not the best promoter in boxing right now. He knows what he has right now, and I was really refreshing to hear Davison kind of say, we're not going to jump right into a Usyk fight. As bad as tempting as that may be. Put him in there with some rounds. We need to see more rounds from him. We need to build him up a little bit more as a puncher. There's a lot of lore around him because it's almost like Iron Mike in terms of him going in the ring and blowing these guys out. But we need to see a little more. We need to build Itauma's profile up a little bit before he steps in there with the Usyk. But the only thing, Ariel, is that Usyk is 38 years old. And it's not old because that's how old I am. But it's old in boxing. So it's like Usyk is running out of time because I do want to see the generational talent or the generational icon going up against the phenom. I think that, you're a WWE fan. That's like the storylines that we pray for in boxing. We have it right now. It's just how are we going to go about the timing of it?
Okay, so he's now in the top 10 according to the Ring magazine. They put out their heavyweight rankings today. Usyk, Fury, Parker, Caballel, Dubois, Joshua, Hrgovic, Wardley, Zhang, Bacoli. He comes in at 10. You didn't give me an answer. You got to give me a name. Who are you booking him against?
Hrgovic.
Okay. Coming off his win.
Yes, I think Hrgovic is a perfect opponent for him. Did Davison? I was kind of half listening. Did Davison say that his next opponent is in this ring top 10?
He did. He didn't say. He said, "I have a name. I don't want to say the name because I don't want to drive the price up." I read him the top 10, and he said, "Yes, the name is there," but he didn't lean in a certain direction.
Okay, I think it's one of the three. It's either Hrgovic, Bacoli, or Zhang. Those are the only that make sense to me. Those are guys that already have losses. Those are guys that I wouldn't say are in title contention just yet. Bacoli's coming off of the loss to Parker. Zhang has had some missteps, and Hrgovic only has one loss in his career, and that was to Daniel Dubois. And Hrgovic, I believe, is the most durable of those three. He was taking some shots in this fight right here against Adelaide, like big-time shots. And I think we need to see how his chin would hold up against Moses Itauma. He's got power as well. Just like a few years ago, Hrgovic was considered the boogeyman. He's definitely a step up over the Dillian Whites of the world. And I'm terrible with ages. I'm looking at, he's 33, Hrgovic. So, he's still somewhat in his chronological prime. I like that one. If I was Frank Warren, I would be calling up Filip Hrgovic right now and saying, here's a boatload of money to fight my phenom.
Do you think he ever fights Usyk? Or do you think Usyk retires before fighting him? Not to suggest that he would duck him, but he doesn't really need to do this fight, right? He said he has 1 or 2 left. There's plenty of guys to fight before Moses.
I think Usyk is on. He's called out Fury after the fight, which I found a little bit uncharacteristic for him because he's already beat him twice. So he had to stare down with Jake Paul. So I think Usyk is kind of entertaining like big money fights as he should at this stage in his career. The thing is, I just mentioned this before. It's a timing thing. If Usyk was 4 years younger, if Usyk was 34, we would have a little more time to let this fight marinate. But we don't. We only have a year or two. Because in an ideal world, Moses Itauma would fight for 2 years and fight the Hrgovics, the Zhangs, the Bacolis, maybe a Caballel, maybe a Dubois, and that gets him to about 2 years in the current boxing schedule. Or although I believe he should be fighting like 4 or 5 times a year, like Tyson did, even more. But in the current landscape, that will get him to about 2 years. And in 2 years, Usyk's 40. And I don't know what Usyk will be at 40. He hasn't showed any signs of slippage because I believe Usyk's last performance against Dubois was his best at age 38, which is crazy to think. I do think they fight.
Wow.
And in a year, it's still interesting to me. After a year, then we're starting to say, is this the best version of Usyk? Because, Father Time is undefeated.
Right. I love that fight. I would be intrigued. We all would be. It would be a spectacle. I'm worried about my guy Joseph Parker getting screwed here. It has to be Joseph next for Usyk. And when I saw that stuff come out on Saturday about Usyk, I'm like, are they really going to bypass this guy? I feel like already he got screwed in Riyadh when he didn't fight Dubois and all that weirdness happened with Bacoli coming in on 24 hours notice. Do you agree that Parker has to be the one who fights Usyk next?
Yes. I mean, meritocracy really doesn't exist in boxing, but we're starting to see somewhat of a structure here in the sport. And the obvious fight is Usyk versus Parker. Parker has a slew of great wins. He's waited his turn. It's a new, fresh fight, too, because look at Usyk. He's running the block, and he's beating these guys twice. He's beating Joshua twice, Fury twice, Dubois twice. He hasn't fought Parker yet, and Parker is very deserving. Boxing fans are calling for it. And it's hard to get boxing fans on the same page all the time, but I believe the consensus at heavyweight, what fans want to see, meritocracy-wise, would be Usyk versus Parker.
By the way, some heavyweight news came out earlier today from the UK. Daniel Dubois splitting with his trainer, Don Charles, who a lot of people thought was responsible for turning things around for him. That run that he was on, obviously, before this last loss was pretty damn great. Yeah. And then there was all the weird stuff with the party, and then there was weird stuff before the AJ fight as well, and then his dad. Are you surprised that Dubois made this call?
Not really. I feel like these fighters change trainers all the time. Like, I think some change had to be made after the party. I don't know if the trainer had anything to do with it. The trainer would probably be the guy to say to get the hell out of that party. Usually it's the dad. Like, how do you fire your dad? Like, boxing is a father-son sport. We've seen fathers ruin the careers of sons. I'm not saying that's the case here, but it's really hard. It's a really delicate partnership between a father, son, trainer, son, manager, son. So something had to give because that party scene looked pretty crazy. Really bad idea in hindsight. So I'm not shocked because I think his game plan was a little strange. He decided to stand in range against Usyk, which I just thought was ridiculous. So maybe there's something there. But I believe there had to be some type of change, and it's very rare we see fighters fire their fathers, even though they should sometimes.
Right. No, obviously that probably does not happen. Kind of going around the world of boxing here, and one guy that I'm super high on is Xander Zayas. What a performance just about a month ago here in New York City, and obviously the future of Top Rank a little bit up in the air, but I saw Oscar De La Hoya just yesterday saying, let's go, Xander Zayas versus Virgil Ortiz. He's mentioned that fight. He's mentioned Boots. He's mentioned Sebastian Fundora. He, to me, youngest champion in boxing right now, is an absolute stud. Like, he's got the whole thing. He's got the package. He's got the look. He's got Puerto Rico. He's got Bad Bunny and Amanda Serrano behind him. This is a guy that Top Rank should be hanging their hat on. Who would you like to see him fight next?
Zayas? Fundora Zayas have been flirting with a fight for a while now. That was supposed to be the fight, and it went to purse bid, I believe, or they couldn't come up with a deal. Anyone at 154. That's probably the best division in all of boxing, but it's the most frustrating division in boxing currently because you have 4 singular champions. There's no unifications. There's a little bit of politics going on, even though we're living in a boxing world where seemingly any fight can be made at any time. Like, I would like to see Zayas fight Virgil Ortiz. I'd like to see Zayas fight Fundora. I'd like to see Zayas fight Bakram, who is just probably the most avoided champion right now, the IBF champion at 154. Guy hasn't fought since last October when he knocked out Tim Tszyu. Can't even come close to fight. No one wants to fight the guy because he has zero profile. There's not a big money attached to him. So 154 is like a very fun division, but it's also frustrating because these are really, really good fighters, and they're all great matchups, which just doesn't seem like we're getting them just yet.
Terence Crawford made a pit stop at 154 last summer and now has zoomed all the way up to 168 to fight Canelo. We're about 3 or so weeks away from this fight on Netflix, maybe a little bit more if my math is correct. You get the point. September 13th, Allegiant Stadium, massive deal, Zuffa Boxing, all this stuff. Your level of excitement, less than a month out, Crawford-Canelo fight we, for the longest time, thought would never happen.
It's gaining steam. It's gaining momentum.
Slow build, fair to say?
Slow build, yeah. Slow build. Listen, boxing needs these types of events. They need 2 or 3 of them, if being a little greedy, but at least one. We need one mega event every year so people don't forget that we exist. And Canelo Crawford is this one. It's on Netflix. Canelo, everyone knows Canelo. My friends that don't follow boxing know Canelo. For the most part, my friends know Crawford after beating Spence. You can't discount the fact that it's going to be available on so many more homes on Netflix. You can't discount the fact that it's an interesting fight because can Crawford do this? Can the little guy beat the bigger guy? Canelo is kind of on the back 9, and he hasn't shown the focus, or he hasn't shown the explosiveness in a lot of his past fights, especially in that skull fight that left a lot to be desired. Many believe that Crawford is just jumping up too much. Like, we're getting closer to September, and the closer we get, I'll tell you what, anything I put on social media or anything I put on YouTube, if you put Canelo Crawford in there, tons of engagement. I think it's starting to, fans are starting to pick up steam, and this fight's starting to pick up steam. I would say it's at like a 7.8 right
Okay. Now. Have you made a pick yet?
No, I don't do that till week of.
Week of. That's a thing. You don't stray.
No, because we want to, you know how it is.
Are you leaning in a direction?
I have a lean.
Okay.
Algieri likes to flip-flop. He's got many other jobs. So he'll go on one show, and he'll say Crawford. Wow. He'll go on another show and say... He did the Spence Crawford. I caught him. He was going all over that media room, making different picks. So therefore, he thinks he's slick. He had different picks out there, so he can go back to that tape and say, I picked Crawford all along.
That's a veteran move.
He's a media guy now.
Yeah, no, for sure. Zuffa Boxing, will it succeed? What's your level of expectation here?
I want everyone to succeed. And
by the way, to be clear, I'm not saying do you want it to succeed or not. Do you think the UFC model will succeed in the boxing world?
I think it will. I think there's enough smart people involved.
Yeah.
I think the sport does need some structure. The Aliak stuff is a little disconcerting.
How do you feel about that? Good or bad? Because they're trying to position it as this is only good.
It's
revival.
Both. There's them getting things like health benefits and looking out for the smaller fighter. If that reigns true, if that becomes true, where a guy can have a somewhat of a salary type of a deal, and he gets health benefits and he gets access to performance centers and all that, then good. If it prevents big fights from happening, and if it lowers the bigger purses out there, which is something that boxing fans are very proud of, and it's also something that boxers have become accustomed to, then there's gonna be some issues. But the fact, I think it's like such a far ways away too to see the actual impact that it will have. I feel like this is like a 5 to 7 year plan that they have in place, but they have the time, they have the resources. They have wrestling, pro wrestling, and now UFC under the same banner. Boxing, it didn't take long for Turkey, Al-Sheikh, and Saudi Arabia to kind of scoop up the entire sport. So what did it take, like 18 months? They have a plan, and those guys know what they're doing.
I agree with you on the people behind it. I mean, what they're doing right now in those two worlds, wrestling and MMA in particular, they're on fire. I know this sport is different. I know there's a lot of people giving them a bit of the stiff arm and saying there's an old guard here and you can't change this or that. I think they're going to be very successful, and I think that they are very influential and persuasive. They're going to be able to have great success. How do you feel about the way the card is shaping up? I think that was one of the big questions. Okay, who's going to be on this card? Callum Walsh, Fernando Vargas Jr., Christian Mbili is someone that I'm very excited about him getting an opportunity in a platform like this. Do you like what they're putting together for this particular card?
I think for the first time they're showing that there is a budget and they're using some restraint here. Not saying that these are bad fights, but this isn't like, for instance, these ring cards have been stacked. November 22nd, there's a ring card with Devin Haney, Brian Norman, David Benavidez, Artur Beterbiev. I'm probably forgetting some fights because there's so many fights being made now. But I like the undercard because I think Christian Mbili versus Lester Martinez could steal the show. Lester Martinez is not really well known, but he fights on Pro Box. Chris has told me great things. I've watched some of his fights. Offensive-minded fighter. Mbili is one of the most underrated fighters, underrated action fighters in the sport today. So I like that. I kind of hearkened it to putting Taylor Serrano 2 on the Tyson Paul undercard. It was all blood. It was all guts. I think we'll get something similar to that on the Canelo Crawford undercard. So if you're a casual fan, if you're not even a boxing fan, you turn on the fight a little early, you're going to see some action. As for Callum Walsh, I could have bet if there was odds on this kid ending up on this card, I would have took him because he's always been aligned with Zuffa or Dana White. And what also I'm hearing too, Ariel, I don't know if you saw this, is it's going to be like a 3-day event. So Big Baby Miller, I believe, is fighting Michael Hunter, Sergey Boachuk. A really exciting fighter at 154 is fighting Brandon Adams. I've heard
Jared Anderson too, right?
I think Jared Anderson might have left the discussion. And maybe also left the sport.
What? He's done? That's it?
I don't know. I've heard
Don King had an issue with Hunter's involvement. No, has that been cleared up?
Well, the only time I know Don King's still alive is when he files an injunction.
That's right.
And so he had his moment in the sun to say, "I'm not letting this fight go on." And then I think Turkey will just pay him an absurd amount of money, and then we won't hear from Don King. But I like the idea of like a 3-day festival.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
Make it fun. MVP did that. We put fights on at the Oculus, the World Trade Center, one of the coolest venues I've ever called a fight for. I think it's becoming a trend now in boxing where these open workouts, which could be kind of stale, the fighters get in there, they barely even break a sweat. So let's put some fights on there. Let's make it a little more exciting. So I like that aspect of it. So you might not have the most stacked undercard for Canelo Crawford, but I think we're going to get a lot of quantity.
Yes, and if you're a fan of All Things TKO, they're doing a big wrestling event that Friday in Vegas as well. So it's
I'll be there.
All Things TKO. Worlds collide at the Thomas and Mack. You're off to Orlando. 2-day MVP event. The first ever MVP fight night. Also a Most Valuable Promotions event as well on Friday. What should we be looking out for?
They're calling it Fight Island. I just saw that.
Okay.
I'm in the group chat with all the young MVP employees.
Oh, yeah. My favorite account. HQ.
Yeah, they call me. Somehow I've become Unk in life. Life comes at you fast. 38 fighters, 19 fights across 2 nights, world title fights. On Saturday night, you got Yankiel Rivera fighting Angelino Cordova. That's a vacant flyweight title fight. Lucas Body returns. He had one of the greatest knockouts of 2024 when he knocked out Ashton Silva. Ioannis Tellez is fighting on this card. He's rumored to be fighting Boots Ennis Next, Stephanie Hahn. She's rumored to be fighting Holly Holm.
Yes.
I believe Holly Holm will be in attendance. I heard Jake Paul is coming. If Jake shows up, I will lose my mind. I will just lose my mind. No, I'm excited, man. I never called 2 fights in back-to-back nights. I think it's 19 fights that I'll be on the call for.
Love it.
Along with Wade Plem, Tarver, Donaire. I think we have some more surprise guests on the commentary team. So I'll be bringing some Manuka honey for my throat.
Oh, yeah. Love that. Joseph Parker, a big fan of that as well. Thank you very much, Dan. Great job. Check out the podcast, Inside Boxing Live, twice a week. Yourself, Chris Algieri, some breaking news episodes as well. Yeah, there it is. A little merch. Great stuff. Keep up the great work, and good luck. More merch. Good luck this weekend.
Ariel.
Oh, okay.
Hold on, man. One last thing.
Wow. Bobblehead. That's nice on the desk. Not going to lie.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. All right, Brandon. Thank you for having me. I sure I'll be on another.
Don't worry. We didn't want to bring up Yankees, Jays, AL East. That's.
Oh, yeah. You love talking baseball in August. Let's be in October when it matters.
All right. We'll see you then. You guys are there.
See you, bro.
There he is, Dan Canobio, joining us, the host of Inside Boxing Live. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. Great stuff. All right, let's move along. We mentioned him a couple times on the show today. Always great to catch up with the legendary Mick Conlan. He returns to action on September 5th. In Dublin at the 3 Arena, his first time fighting in that venue, in that city as a professional. He returns on September 5th, a big show, and it is being billed as Return of the Mick. Is he there or not? Am I wrong? Oh, there he is.
Here.
Hello,
here,
Mick.
man.
How are you?
Oh, good, Ariel. How's things? Long day, my friend.
Yes. Sorry for keeping you up late. I know it's late over there in Ireland. Are you in Northern Ireland? Are you in Belfast?
No, I'm in Sheffield in training camp, mate. It's not the most glamorous place in the world, especially considering I've had training camps where I was in LA for a long time, and then I was in Surrey down beside London, which the weather was always lovely. Then I was in Miami. Now I'm here in Sheffield, which is very unassuming compared to where I've been.
Well, it doesn't. It's not a glamorous life, right? It's the fight game. It's the prize fighting business. It's work. That's right.
It's work.
Fighting at the 3 Arena in Dublin, first time as a pro fighting in Dublin, first time at 3 Arena. How do you feel about this opportunity?
I'm very excited, Ariel. I've fought everywhere in the world. I've never fought in Dublin. I forged most of my career in Dublin as an amateur. And now to finally go back and fight there is going to be really special. Something that I've longed for my whole career. I was a sports personality in the south of Ireland. And now that, I would consider myself a bigger name in the south than I am in my own city in Belfast. So
wow.
When I fight in Belfast, 50% of my tickets are bought from the south of Ireland. So it's going to be great. And it's going to be great for the travelling fans. Not have to travel as far. So it's something I'm excited about, man.
You will be making history. You'll be the first fighter to headline the SSE Arena in Belfast and now the 3 Arena in Dublin. So I know that's a huge deal for you. And they're calling this Return of the Mick. And you have talked about this sort of being the final chapter. Just to be clear, it's not the final fight, though, right?
No, definitely not the final fight. No, I says when I come back, it's the last roll of the dice. I'll roll them and see how far they go. And if I'm going to be honest with you, Ariel, I know that people say, this is the best training camp I've had and all this. I'm not going to say it's the best training camp I've had ever, but it's the best I've been inside and outside the ring, mentally and physically. And I'm in a great position. I have no weight in my shoulders, no kind of worries. What will be. And I'm at peace with that. So there's no pressure. I can just go in and enjoy myself. And that's what I plan to do for the rest of this career. I want to get a world title still. I'm aiming towards that. I think I can still do it. I believe I can still do it. And, I'm showing now back in the gym, working hard, working, that is still there. So I'm excited for it. It's no pressure. Just go and enjoy yourself. And that's why I'm taking everything now.
So 2023 obviously was a tough year with the 2 losses. You took 24 off, came back in March of this year, won that fight. First, can I ask, why did you take 2024 off? Was that your call? Did you think you needed some time off? What was the decision-making process there?
Well, I was in 2 minds whether or not I was still box. I ended up taking some time off. Just I didn't say nothing. I didn't, in the immediate aftermath after my last defeat, I was like, I was gonna, right, that's me done. But then I says, no, hold your tongue because you might regret this. And thankfully I did, because in that time off, I ended up running the marathon and stuff and just doing crazy stuff throughout that year, which is really good just to kind of break, because I'm in boxing now 27 years. It's a lifetime. It's more than life in jail. So the fact that, I took a year off, got refreshed, got revitalized, and I've come back. I've come back with my goals, which have always been there, but kind of refocused and the aim towards them, knowing that if I was to lose again, that's it, done, and I can just enjoy myself and just do whatever I want. I've been very smart outside of boxing. I've set myself up with different businesses and different kind of outlets and different pathways which I can walk into. So it's not that I need boxing; it's that I have goals that I believe I need to achieve, and I'll do everything I can to get them.
And so, going into that fight against Khan in March, were you thinking, if this doesn't go well, I'm done? Were you putting that pressure on yourself?
I don't see it as pressure, Ariel. I don't.
Really?
It was just like, you know what? It was the first time actually getting in the fight. I was not nervous at all. I've been nervous every fight I've ever had, bar that one. And because I was nervous, I actually was nervous for that reason. I was like, what's going on? I've never not been nervous getting into a fight. Nerves I always thought was a good thing, but it was just a moment of peace where I was just like, whatever happens, happens. And in that training camp, I'll be honest, I was like, I forgot how to box. Taking the year to the ring has, like, I was out of the gym completely. I was running, yes, but in terms of boxing training and time and distance and everything like that, even punch selection, I was like, where has it gone? So the training camp was like, oh, have I forgot? And then it started to kind of come back towards the end of that. And I got the job done. Just the routine, kind of go in and get the rounds, get moving, get back to the feel of it all. And I've came into this training camp and it's like a completely different person that went into the last one. So
wow,
that excites me. That really excites me, and I feel great. I'm probably stronger than I've ever been, as fit as I've ever been, and my mindset is definitely in the right place for this.
Do you think that means you'll be nervous on the night?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, and
so.
Why is it because you're in Dublin? Is it because it's starting? Why do you think so?
It's just because I know the work I've put in, and you want to make sure everything goes right. It's normal. It's natural. That's the natural thing. When you're a kind of perfectionist when you're in the ring, you want to make sure you do everything correctly, and it's just them little nerves that kind of get you fired up, and realizing that everything is back. I know I've got to be on it, so I will be on it.
Do you feel like your confidence is back? Do you feel like your mojo is back after the win?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Everything's working again, and the training I have, the sparring I've had, I've been fantastic. So even the coach is going, I can't believe the difference from the first training camp to this training camp, and he's going. I said to him at the first training camp, I'm not this bad, just to let you know. He says, I know you've been out of the ring a long time. And then he said it to me last week or a few weeks ago. He says, I can't believe the difference. He says, I told you I wasn't shit. And he laughed and says, I never thought you were shit. So don't worry about that. But I says, no, but it just needed to kind of woken up a bit.
I would say your resume speaks for itself, so I don't think anyone thinks that at any point. Jake Bateson is getting the biggest opportunity of his career by far. Yep. What a shot for him. How did you land on him being the opponent?
They put a few opponents to me, and I says, listen, get them a figure and I'll fight anybody, so it doesn't really matter. And we ended up getting there in the end, and I was happy. It doesn't matter. Jack's got, he's a good fighter, former Team GB athlete, the European medalist and stuff in the amateurs, and has done okay as a pro. This is his big opportunity. This is his world title fight, and most people who in a fight me always kind of have that kind of goal there. If I beat him, I'm in a big fight, because no matter if he's lost, he's still a big name, and that's something that I've had since day one. So it is what it is. I'm good with it. I'm looking forward to it, because I'll have the best Jack Bates in front of me on fight night, which means I got to be the best myself. And how everything went this camp, I'm in a good place to do it.
And by the way, we were just talking about Jake Paul. My apologies to Jack. I called him Jake Bateson. Jake Paul.
I knew that because I was listening. And big shout out to Dan. Dan's a good friend. I've known Dan a long time. a great guy. Inside boxing's fantastic. Him and Chris are top guys. So, you know, Dan's always sending me stats over after I fight. And
Oh
stuff, so
yeah,
I always appreciate Dan punch stats and stuff. I love it.
yeah. Of course, he's from the great CompuBox family.
CompuBox, yeah.
Yeah, his dad.
I know his dad and stuff. You know, I've met
Legend.
them, had drinks with him, everything after some of my fights in New York, and some special times.
Amazing. By the way, can I ask Jake Paul versus AJ? We were just talking to Ben Davison about that. Crazy, or are you into it?
Crazy.
Crazy.
I'm into it. Listen, it doesn't matter if it's crazy. I'm into it. But it's very dangerous, man. Because look what AJ done to Ngannou, who is one of the most dangerous men on earth. Jake Paul is not even that level. He's done well in what he's doing. I'm not even going to say pro boxer or nothing. He's just done well in what he's doing. But I have to respect him to come into the game and fight the guys he fought and handle them how he's handled them. He's done a great job. But AJ is, man, he's different. He's an animal, and he punches so hard and knows boxing, knows technique. Jake Paul's not a heavyweight; he's a cruiserweight. It's like, come on, what are you doing? Don't do this, please. Because for the sake of boxing, I don't think it's a good thing for boxing. I don't think it's a good thing for Jake Paul's health. And the thing every fighter wants is to get out of the game very healthy. And I do not think that would be a good option for him.
Just while we're on the topics of some things we've talked about on the show today, everyone glowing over Moses Itauma and debating how quickly they should push him to the very top. What do you think? As someone who's been in this game for so very long, do you think he should get put in there against an Alexander Usyk, or is that a little too soon?
It's too soon, way too soon. This Usyk is the master, and I've called it. I called it when he went pro, and I called he would take over heavy division from 2018 when he was still cruiserweight. This Moses is special, but he's a baby, and he doesn't understand boxing like an Alexander Usyk. Yes, he can beat some top guys right now, 100%, but he is so young, so you got to take your time with people like him. You don't need to be rushing it. You got loads of time. He's got a long career ahead of him. Why would you put him in to lose, probably get exposed a little bit in terms of whatever weakness he has, which I don't think there will be much, but you dent a young man's confidence and hurt him that way. There's no need. You can take your time, and that guy can be a pay-per-view star in a few years, not even loads of years. He's going to be a pay-per-view star very soon. I don't think there's a need to rush him.
Who do you think he should fight next, if not Usyk?
Well, listen, if they're talking about Usyk, my opinion would be Hrgovic.
Yeah.
Put him in with Hrgovic. Hrgovic, in his last fight there against David Adelaide, and I know David, I'm friendly enough with David. Hrgovic for the first time showed unbelievable fitness, which was amazing to see. Obviously, Abel Sanchez done a great job there up in Big Bear. But could Moses take him out? Who knows? It would be an interesting one. But who am I thinking here around the heavyweight division?
There's Hrgovic, there's Caballel, there's Bacoli. Parker's name has been thrown out as well.
I wouldn't put him in with Parker. I wouldn't put him in with the second part.
Caballel, Bacoli.
I wouldn't put him in with Caballel. No. Caballel is amazing.
Zhile Zhang.
Zhile Zhang would be a good test. Who a former Olympic gold medalist.
Boy, yeah.
Massive man, and Itauma is probably one of the smallest heavyweights. So it'd be an interesting clash. But again, there's still no need to rush. Them guys are still a bit more experienced and, been around the pro game a lot longer. Take your time.
Can I ask, over the weekend, I saw your old foe, Lee Wood, with Eddie Hearn, talking about potential comeback fights and maybe linking up with Matchroom. Still to this day, you versus him a couple of years ago, one of the greatest fights that I've ever seen. I know it didn't go the way in which you planned. Is it possible we see that again? I know a couple of months ago there was talk of maybe running it back. What do you think? Is this something that is a possibility at this point in his career?
Yeah, definitely. Listen, if it makes sense, we can do it. my aim is to get back towards the world title. So the rematch is secondary to that. If I can get a world title shot before that, I would take that. But that's a fight. I wanted the rematch immediately. His coach, Ben Davison, who you had on the show today, just didn't allow it because he took a little bit of stick in the press conferences. But it's something that I would definitely run back. Something I would love to do again. Him or Josh Ryan. I would like to fight Josh too, and I have respect for both men, both good fighters. But I've got to come through beats him first. So once I do that, I can be in a position to say what I want. But until then, I'll sit back and I'll watch and see what happens.
Fair enough. I'll ask you about one more Irish fighter. There's a young man named Callum Walsh that Dana White is very excited about. He's fighting on this Crawford-Canelo card. He's getting the push. Like you, he got to fight St. Paddy's Day at the theater. They brought him to the 3 Arena. What do you think of his skills, and in your opinion, what's his ceiling?
I think Callum's a fantastic fighter, a great man, and he can do big things in boxing. He's got the backing of Zuffa boxing, as you said, and they've been kind of behind him with Tom Lawfer from the start, which has been fantastic. And he's probably more well known in UFC audiences than boxing audiences because he's been putting on Fight Pass a lot. But I think he's the real deal. I think he knocks out Vargas, if I'm going to be honest.
Wow.
I don't think Vargas is the best of the brothers. I think Emilio, I rate that kid so highly. He's a fantastic fighter. And, I would say Fernando's second. He's the second best, and then Armado last. I watch it. I like to watch the kids. They're good fighters, but I do think Callum is probably a little bit ahead at the minute and looks good doing the job on him.
While we're making picks, Canelo or Crawford?
Like that, I'm like, it's hard. I'll flip-flop if I go too early, but when I watched the face-off and I seen Bud step to him and I seen Canelo's face, I leaned towards Bud now.
Yeah, me too.
I leaned at the start. I leaned towards Canelo because he is so big, and the better big man beats the better smaller man usually. But Bud is just so game and one of the best fighters pound for pound of our generation. And I like him as a person. He's a great guy. I think Bud just has that edge now. I think Canelo is probably starting to kind of go on the slide, but not much. Listen, he's still an unbelievable fighter, one of the best of his generation as well. It's an interesting fight, but something about that face-off made me go, Bud's got this.
I felt the same. I think the big narrative was he'd be too big for him. Canelo would be too big for him. Now all of a sudden you see them face to face, not that much bigger. The body language, the weight. I think people kind of forgot who Terence Crawford was because he hasn't been so active. He just had the the Madrimov fight last year, and then the year before was the Spence fight, and that was one of the greatest performances ever in a title fight, at least recently. So I think people have forgotten.
Like you said, Ariel, the body language.
Yeah,
the body language that got me when I seen the body language. And I seen how Bud was just standing, smiling. Canelo was so serious, but Bud was just laughing and like staring him down. I was like, he's a scary dude, man. No matter if he has a smile on his face, he's a scary dude. He can fight both stances. He's the smaller guy, but also he's carried his power from lightweight right up. And you're going, can he still carry it up? It's a question. Pacquiao did it. Can Bud do it? We'll see. But, Canelo, an unbelievable fighter, one of the best of the generation, as I said. Could be too big, but something about that posturing where they stood faced each other made me say, Bud's got this.
Mick, you're the man. So great to see you back. So great to see you getting this opportunity in Dublin. What a scene it's going to be on September 5th. It's going to be a tremendous return for you. I love that they're doing this. I love that you're getting this opportunity. There was that lull there. No real major boxing events in Dublin for so long. Katie comes back. Seems to have opened the door for the likes of you to get these opportunities, and it's been well-deserved and well-earned. So we wish you the best. Thanks for staying up late with us. Really appreciate it. Good
Ariel,
luck on the
I
last few
appreciate
days.
it, mate. And you mentioned Kitty Taylor. She's the best Irish fighter of all time.
Much respect. Much respect. Thank you, Mick. All the best to you and good luck on September 5th.
Thank you. Take care, Ariel.
There he is, the great Mick Conlon, returning against one Jack Bateson, not Jake Bateson. That's a different person. I don't even know if that's a real person, but that should be quite the scene. When he fought here in New York City at the theater, I remember just a few years ago, it was right before, wow, it's a long freaking time, probably 2017, Conor McGregor showed up to walk him out, went up to the media on press row, was talking about that he's going to fight Floyd Mayweather and all that. Mick has always been so great, and I love his insights on the world of boxing. Let's get him on a broadcast. Let's get him on a DAZN show. Come on now. He's tremendous. Really great stuff from Mick Conlan. Earlier in the day, we talked about Daniel Dubois splitting from Don Charles, who everyone, I know if ADE was here, he'd be going crazy over this because everyone thought that Don turned the whole thing around and was a huge part of this great run that he was on leading up to the Alexander Usyk fight. Earlier this morning, he posted on social media the announcement. Here it is in case you missed it.
I'd like to thank Don Charles for the hard work and effort he's put into me over the last 18 months. But now I feel like I need a fresh change and a new start for this next phase of my career where I look to become two-time heavyweight champion of the world.
Oh my, I'm very curious to see where he goes from here. You know, I wanted to ask Ben about it, but I don't want him talking about, you know, he's been there before. He's had high-profile splits, and this is very fresh. And so let's see how it all plays out. There's certainly a plethora of great trainers for Daniel Dubois. His next step, his next move is going to be a really interesting one because he's still a top-ranked heavyweight, former IBF champ, just lost the belt to Usyk en route to becoming undisputed for the second time. The next move is going to be interesting. Not just who he links up with, but I mean the next move in terms of who he fights. They have to be very careful here. That was a bad loss. And once again, the doubts over his heart, over his will, over his determination, over his chin are starting to creep up once again. People saying that he quit, all this crazy stuff. The talk of the party and who was behind it and should he have been there, should he not have been there, was the dad, was it? All this stuff. There's so much noise surrounding him right now. The next move in terms of who he hires as his new trainer and where he fights and against who, all going to be very interesting to see. We spoke very briefly about Holly Holm. Yes, in fact, it is true. She is now ranked as a top 10 lightweight by the WBA and IBF. She's going to be at that event this weekend in Orlando to take a good look at Stephanie Hahn. And perhaps if Hahn wins, they will do Hahn versus Holm. What a story that would be. Holly Holm, boxing Hall of Famer, leaves the sport, becomes a UFC champion now in the swan song, if you will. Not to suggest she's done by any stretch. Definitely don't say that to her. She'll get very, very offended. Here she is gunning potentially for one last title run in the lightweight division. Incredible stuff. So looking forward to that and looking forward to what should be a great weekend of boxing with those two events. Let's roll through the schedule here. Here it is, Friday in Orlando. You heard Dan talk about this card. Love the poster, by the way. This is a prospect show. Then we'll move over to Saturday. Down under. You've got the homecoming for one Sky Nicholson. Love it. Early Saturday. All right here on DAZN. Then we'll move forward. The great Mark Chamberlain is back. Queensberry card. Queensberry doing some big shows, and then we'll round out the night with the Ioannis Tellez fight on DAZN. MVP Fight Night, their very first for the WBA Interim World Super Welterweight title. That's 154 pounds. So 4 pretty big events this weekend right here on the undisputed global home of boxing. Boxing. Time now for everyone's favorite segment of the week. It is time for our parting shot, and you know, we could play the Itauma knockout, but I feel like by now you have seen it 1,000 times before. Hrgovic Adelaide had a great fight. Nick Ball, Sam Goodman had a great fight as well. Ray Ford, good stuff in Riyadh this past weekend. But you know, sometimes I like to go into the history books. Sometimes I like to flex a little bit. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't realize this morning, but I was looking around this day in boxing history, and then it hit me. 30 years ago today, August 19th, 1995. Young Helwani, 13 years old. And I was a big Mike Tyson fan. Who wasn't? Punch out, this, that, and the other. Was confused. This man's in jail. What's going on? Is he going to come back? He's convicted of rape. Is he actually going to fight again? And then you start to find out in the spring, summer of 1995. I'm heading into 8th grade. Mike Tyson, Iron Mike, is coming back. And he's fighting a young man out of Massachusetts called Peter McNeely. Oh my dear, what is going to happen here? I was so hyped about this. They would play commercials on TV hyping up the fight, and they would also say, if you call now, 1-800-Mike's back, you can not only get the fight, but you could get the program. I bought it. Bought the program. There it is. Bought it. Now, that's not my exact program, but I do have it at my parents' house in Montreal. Not only did I buy the program, I bought the t-shirt. I kid you not. I have not seen that t-shirt. I looked it up today in years. Love that shirt. In fact, I played tackle football with my friends at Hampstead Park in Montreal, and a friend of mine tried to tackle me and ripped the shirt. I was so mad. A couple years later, I had it. It was a good run. Anyway, I was hyped. I was there. It was a great scene. It was a great show. And Peter McNeely's pre-fight interview in the locker room with Jim Gray is an all-time classic. If you've never seen it, take a look.
Peter, we have you for just a moment before you go out into the ring. Your thoughts before you get in with Mike Tyson.
This is for my grandfathers, my grandmothers, my father, my mother, Curly, my 3 brothers, last but not least, Snubby.
Yeah.
Mr. McNeely, what was it that you have told your son?
And last but not least, Medfield.
Yeah. Shout out to Snubby. Anyway, that was a great pre-fight interview. My brother was up in his room, and he said, call me, go get me when the fight starts. So I waited. I didn't call him when the ring walks were going down. I don't know why I waited to the very, very beginning of the fight. I kid you not, my friends. I ran upstairs, and by the time we ran back down, the fight was over. I missed the whole thing. It was that quick. Let's relive it, at least some of it together. Here it is. Mike Tyson, Peter McNeely. It was feverish, as you can see. It was absolutely chaotic. Look at this. Shout out to Mills Lane. 3rd man in the ring. Legend. Let's get it on. Oh, yeah. This is vintage Mike. Oh, that uppercut right there. Oh, yeah, know yourself. In the end, it lasted just 1 minute and 29 seconds. The team jumps into the ring. The official ruling is a DQ. You can't quite do that. The fight wasn't technically over, but they ran in there and they said, no mas, we're done. Either way, probably for the best. Mike Tyson went on to fight Buster Mathis, Frank Bruno, on and on it goes. But what a scene that was. Exactly 30 years ago tonight at the world-famous MGM Grand Garden Arena. I missed that venue. It's been a while since I've been there, and I thought it would be very fun to relive all of that. So happy anniversary to both Mike Tyson and Peter McNeely, and Jim Gray, too, for that very, very memorable pre-fight interview. Snubby, I think he said. Shout out to him. My friends, we're out of time. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully ADE is enjoying his time off. I saw him chime in the chat. Shout out to the chat as well. Shout out to everyone who's been supporting the show. Who's in the chat right now, just to prove that that we're live. Shout out to Twiddle, Mark, Ellie, Jasper. There's a turkey here. I don't think it's the same one, but shout out to you as well. Timmy, Ellis, Crazy X-Man, AI Cheeks, all of you. Shout out to all of you for the support. Thanks for watching live. We're not going to be with you next week. We're all going to be off. But God willing, we'll be back with you on the 2nd of September. That's the day after Labor Day. And there'll be plenty to discuss. The McConlin fight coming up that weekend. Then, of course, we'll be inching closer to the massive Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Crawford fight. At that point, 11 days away. So buckle up, my friends. Enjoy all the fighting going down this weekend. Next weekend, by the way, on DAZN, August 30th, the DAZN pay-per-view, Misfits 22, Luke Rockhold against Darren Till. Also, Tony Ferguson against Sal Poppy. What a scene that's going to be. And we'll talk about that as well. For now, though, for ADE, for myself, for our team here in New York City, thank you so very much for watching. Enjoy the fights.